together as writers. And I thank her very much for this. This is my second time here. The first time I was here was July 29th or August something. I think my memoir had just been approved. I have now published it. My book is for sale. I am a person who believes in the healing power of memoir, and I spent 3 years writing my memoir to come to terms with things involving the ordeal of my husband dying of cancer and my life as a single woman and a single parent after he died. My book, Again in a Heartbeat, is about this, and it never would have happened without the support of a writing retreat I went to in Kentucky. And I am offering a memoir workshop in Chester County on October 15th and 16th with a woman who was my mentor, founded a group called Women Writing for a Change, about the healing power of memoir and how our stories can transform us. And she will be workshopped in Chester County. I have information if you want to come to that. With that said, I would like to read you the prologue and the chapter 1 of my memoir, which is called Again in a Heartbeat, a memoir of love, loss, and dating again. If my life were a movie, how would I change it? The answer is I wouldn't, unless I could have saved John. Before John, I had little experience with men. It was John who taught me about myself. You aren't as strong and confident as you want people to believe, he said. It was John who gave me everything a woman could want in a man. A bouquet of yellow roses with a hand-printed card. Happy Wednesday. John came to me when I least expected it. John left me when I least expected it. Not that it was his fault, but I blamed him anyway. Ghosts of regret haunt my memories. That day in the kitchen, me shouting, "I wish I'd never met you." Perhaps I've been too hard on myself. John said I was, but being hard on myself is part of the woman I am. I should have done more, I told my friends. I could have been kinder. To escape from my grief, I tried to fill the empty space left by John. Much of the time, I wasn't escaping anything, just changing places, changing skirts, changing months, changing nothing. The first time I saw John, he was standing under white dogwood trees at Valley Forge Military Academy. He held himself very tall with a presence. Arrested by his ease and confidence, I felt a jolt as John's dark eyes locked onto mine. I wanted to look away, but he wouldn't let me. Who was this man? From this arises my story. Part 1, Chapter 1. How have you been? John asked. I was not surprised to hear his voice on the other end of the phone. It had been a week since we met at Valley Forge Military Academy. Busy. My editor has been sending me out to community events and school board meetings. Do you like working for a newspaper? He asked. It's my first job as a reporter. I feel almost like it's a calling, or at least that's one way to rationalize my whopping $140 a week salary, I joked. The year was 1977. Although I dreamed of becoming a famous novelist, I had fallen in love with Woodward and Bernstein after watching the Watergate hearings. Local journalism seemed a way to write and get published. Now I was a staff writer for the Suburban and Wayne Times, a family-run newspaper located in Wayne, Pennsylvania, the town on Philadelphia's main line where I grew up. The monotony of school board and township meetings had been offset by interviews with Chubby Checker, who lived in the area, and Bob Hope, who visited Valley Forge Military Academy. I also covered the filming of Taps, a movie shot at the Academy, starring two unknowns, Sean Penn and Tom Cruise. John laughed. You're a good writer. I read your stuff all the time. Hey, I was calling to ask you to go dancing. Excuse me? Although I was flattered by John's interest in me, I was seeing Alan, my editor, who was old enough to be my... I'm not big on dancing, I told him. Too many formal dances Dad made me go to at Valley Forge. How about dinner? I paused and considered. That would be fine. He showed up wearing a black blazer with the west of the breast pocket and creased gray slacks. He resembled the actor Jeff Goldblum. He had a mustache and wore dark green aviator sunglasses. Over dinner at an Italian restaurant with fresh red and white carnations on the table, John told me he was chairman of the English department. My father had that same job at Valley Forge before he became dean there. I've heard about your dad, John said. Didn't he teach English to J.D. Salinger? Yes, and Edward Albee. John nodded. Your father was an institution at the academy. A real academician is how everyone describes him. He majored in Latin and English and was Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Pennsylvania. Can you believe it? My dad, the intellectual, was up at a military academy. John was a good listener. He never took his eyes off me. You're beautiful, he said. Did anyone ever tell you that your eyes are almost green? I have beautiful women. Attractive, but not classic, which had been a series of infants. I was easy prey for men with music. I liked more than they liked me. It's good, don't you think? Oh, I see. I fidgeted, folded the linen napkin in my lap, and played. Why were his eyes boring into John's smile for 2 hours? Why aren't you in me, I asked. 2 weeks before I graduated from West Point, they informed me I was commissioned. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I wanted to be an airborne. I should be grateful. I had gotten a free year's expense. I didn't want or need their money. I picked up the check and pulled out his credit card to pay dinner. 6 years ago, he said. He could see my concern. I have one of the best doctors in Philadelphia. The colitis is under control, although I had no flare-up. I had heard the word colitis before, but had no idea what ulcerative colitis was. We got up. It was a warm night. Sexy smell like apricots. Billowy clouds were framed by light as the sun set. His face briefly touched my. I want to see you again, he said.